all over
You
the
can
place
be
sometimes.
found here in Prince William for sure on a stage with a microphone, singing, having a good time, or enjoying karaoke.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Enjoying it. So I want to pivot into those are the things that you learn along the way as a young man. Again, you had your hands in politics, at an early age. You were making decisions and at the table, and you got into politics here in Prince William County, and many people know you for that. But before you got into politics, let's talk about family. Let's talk about, I heard you mention, you obviously was married before and that didn't work out quite right, but you seem to have done it right this time, right?
Yeah,
I hear you talk a lot about
yeah.
your lucky penny, and I want to talk to you about the importance of family and what that means to have that good relationship in your life, have a partner.
Right.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
I think Penny and I have been together for 30 years. She's always kept me grounded. She'd be the one who, I get to talk too much about myself. She comment about the holes I made with my underwear or something. She'd bring me back to reality, She
Pull you right over.
There you go.
Don't get beyond yourself.
There you go. But stand by me, advise me, support me. When I met Penny, I was running political campaigns in D.C. That's another thing I learned, campaigning, the science of campaigning, putting campaigns together. And was successful at it. Because I started as a field person, then head of this, then head of that, then head of that. Eventually, Tony, I need you to run the campaign, all of it. So, and I did, and we won. One regrettable loss was we ran against Marion Barry.
Oh my, yeah.
That was a futile, as they say. But anyway, we learned from that. So the gentleman whose campaign I was running was William Lockridge, who was Calvin's nephew, who would come to D.C. And he and I were very good friends. In fact, if I run, Tony, you need to manage the campaign. So we had that mutual respect for each other. But anyway, when I first met Penny, and I'd be going over to Southeast, because we both lived up in Northwest. She lived on Rittenhouse, I lived on Sheridan. So I'd be going over there a lot. So I don't know whether she thought I was, what the story was. So on election day, I asked her, I said, won't you come with me? And she went in the war room, so to speak, with Mr. Lockridge, who was up for re-election. And I had to manage the campaign. So I was gone, I was right back and forth. So about 4 o'clock, we always had what we call the 11th hour. Everybody get on the streets. Yeah. Everybody get out of these offices, every material, put them on the streets. So we gonna flood the streets with all our people. So I said, come on, ride with me. I had a driver that was driving me around because I was taking notes and shooting information back, executing that campaign. So when she got with me and we went around, there was 16 precincts. And when each time I put up the precinct, we had about 8 to 10 people on each precinct. People come rushing toward me, Tony, what's going on? And she was like flabbergasted. She didn't realize, the extent of what we were doing. From that point on, when I told her campaign, and I never had any more questions from her from that. And she's spoken about that, how that changed her mind too. That impressed her, seeing that. Mr. Lockridge had a hell of an organization. Yeah. And it was a huge, because he had a lot of people working with and supporting him. But I was the man, I was the director. So, she stayed with me. The funny part about it is, and I tease her about this too, when her mother, because me and her mother and son had bonded, we were good friends. So I told her mother, I said, well, I'm moving down to Woodbridge. So I don't know what Penny was into in there, but her mother said, take Penny with you. I told her, I said, your mother gave you to me. And I tease her about that often. And she had a laugh, and her family, but eventually she came down, and we've been together ever since. Yeah. She's talented, in terms of a homemaker. nephew, she go to bed at house in spotless. She's retired now, so she has time for that. But she cooks. She was raised by her grandmother. She knew how to cook. In fact, she teased me, she said, because I've been cooking since I was 8. I had to take care of my sisters and brothers.
Sure.
She said the first year she didn't know I knew how to cook, because she cooked.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to work every day, you cook. That was like our exchange, you know. So, yeah, we came down here together and we forged out our life ourselves. She's also an athlete and liked to sing too.
Yeah.
So we got down here, went to the playgrounds. That's what I used to do when I used to go places, go to playgrounds, meet other athletes and play. So ran into a girl, she had been playing softball since elementary school. So she ran into a friend that knew her and they played against. So the girl invited her to come out and play on the team. So she did, went and played the team. We'd been here got here in May. So she started on that team maybe about June. Then that kind of broadened our social thing around. You met people, now people inviting you to the house to play cards. So you develop a little social circle. So the next year, she got with the team, and the young boy who was coaching, we was doing well up until May. He went out, the coach, after the prom, got in a car accident and broke his leg. I was his assistant. So everybody said, well, Tony, you got to coach a team. So I took it over, and I coached that team for about 15 years. Oh man, we had a nice, you know, that was another part of it. You know, she played up a long time. She was good too. She was always productive. Women's softball team right out of Prince William County Stadium. We was out there making our mark.
My sister was a softball player and throughout high school and college and even throughout the Air Force and Army.
There you go.
I know the passion behind women's softball.
That's right. That's right.
What has being married to Penny taught you about love?
Well, there's nothing better than love. There's nothing better than love. You got someone who will tell you the truth, you know, keep you grounded, particularly with the kinds of things I was being exposed to and activities I was getting involved. You know, sometimes, particularly when you see the results of your effort, you sit down and plan something that come to fruition, you get a little full of yourself, and I always have to have somebody to help you stay grounded and realize you didn't do it all by yourself now. You know, so, and also recognize the impact that God has in your life. You know, that's another real big part of it. My mom was real staunch in that regard. You know, boy, you make sure you pray and you make sure you say your prayers and thank Him every day. You know, so, and that's all part of that love too. Yeah. You share that. You know, you can pray together and you can cry together. You know, and you know, I think those are the things that she taught me. You know, she helped me to realize, you know, particularly when you think about the first one.
Yeah.
You know, that lasts about 13 years.
Oh wow.
But first wife was from New York City.
Okay.
The second wife was from Washington D.C. Small town boy like me.
Small town boy like you.
The first one, I used to say, the small time boy like me just wasn't her cup of tea.
Yeah.
After 13 years, we kind of separated. But you know, I don't regret. I don't regret any of it. The journey has been a good journey. I know there's been some ups and downs, but more ups than downs. You know, some dark periods, but more periods of light and reflection and good things. You know, but anyway, this penny that's my lucky penny.
That's your lucky penny. And I think that is beautiful. I've heard you refer to them as that, and I just think it's beautiful. And I could not sit down with you and not mention the beauty that I see in whenever you speak about it. Light up, and I love that you recognize her in spaces and places. I think it's important to do.
Oh yeah, so do I.
Yeah, I think it's important.
So do I.
All right, so we know that, you know, you get down here again, you got your lucky penny, you're doing your thing, you're working, making a difference. And then you jump into politics here. And how did that happen?
Well, again, having worked with Mr. Lockridge, and I continued to work with him, continued to work in plans, even when I was not working directly in his office. I continued to work with him and spend time with him up until the day he died. Going to school board meetings and see how that operated. I mean, school board meetings in DC was serious. That's some serious business.
Yeah.
So and when he did, I was there. So I was exposed to all of that. I was exposed to a lot of the subcommittee meetings.
Okay.
When plans were being made, they might, excuse me, they might talk about them at the board meeting, but the plans are being made in them subcommittee meetings. So I understood the dynamics of how boards were working, and how they come to, to achieve things. The planning process, the importance of having a voting block of support, people that you can count on, you can get things done. Because one person can't get anything done on any kind of board or commission. But when I came here, we moved to Dumfries in 1997.
Okay.
Been there 25 years, I think. So, and I still was working with Lockridge them on there. But anyway, I looked around and I only saw there was 2 African Americans on the Dumfries town, Mr. Clyde and another young man. I forgot his name because he resigned halfway through it. So I was watching the dynamics, and particularly down here, this was very rural at that time. Route 1, you could ride down Route 1 for 10 to 15 minutes before you see another car. Like during them days, between Woodbridge and Dumfries.
Wow.
That was just the woods out there. And I mean, it's been developed now, and that's another story, but it was just rural. It was a little small, sleepy town. And when I went in there, I recognized that they were advertising for people to get on first was the planning commission. So I said, well, give it a try, So I got on the planning commission, then I started looking around in town hall. They had one black person who was working in there. Her name was Peaches at the time. She was at the front. Nobody else in the whole place was the only people that frequented the place was Clyde and myself.
Sure.
And so, that didn't strike me.
Yeah. Now let me ask you really quick, was the demographic, was it majority African American like it is now? How was that?
It was relatively about like it is now.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
'cause you haven't had those townhouse communities brought some people in.
Sure.
But the main, you had Williamstown there, you had Port of Dumfries there, you had like Whitehaven and the other areas, detached homes. They were basically the same, I would say, demographics, roughly.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was an integrated community.
Okay.
So, Clyde Washington, I used to go make reports. I became president of chairman of the planning commission, and I also got on the board of zoning appeals. The bylaws allow for one person from the board of zoning appeals, from the planning commission to be on the board. So I served on both boards. I learned so much about land use, about adjudicating cases. I chaired quite a few of our meetings because at that time, Ms. Bagley, she was the chairperson, and I was the vice chair. So a lot of times she would just let me chair stuff. And so I was learning, and also what I saw garnering the respect of a lot of the folks around here. I always tell the story, we had one big case we had to adjudicate between parties. There was maybe about 40 people in it. Each party had about 3 or 4 lawyers on each side.
Wow.
There was one African American in the room. I was teasing him, I said, you know who that was? Me, and I was Mr. Chairman.
Wow.
So I handled that, and I didn't feel, any other kind of way. I was there, and what you understand is in those kind of committees, people respect your position. They don't care who's sitting there.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman is Mr. Chairman, so and I knew how to execute that. So, but anyway, as I stayed there for 8 years, and I was getting people involved, not as much to the extent later on. So Mr. Washington Clyde said, man, you need to come on and step up here. We got an election coming. So he took me, and you know, he was a pillar in the community. Well respected, well known. Started taking me around to a lot of Caucasian supporters, introducing me and telling them folks that he thought that I would be very beneficial to the town on that body. And people allowing me to put up my signs in their place. I'm telling you, I say to this day, if it hadn't been for Mr. Washington, there wouldn't have been no Willie Toney. Because he was the one who introduced me to the people, the significant decision makers here. So I ran the first time and won by 1 vote.
My goodness.
But I won.
But you won.
I won. I've never forgotten Mr. Yoy says, if it's about 1 vote, you still got the same authority as the person who got 20 votes. So Mr. Yoy was, he became the mayor while I was there. But I always felt he gave me a lot of respect because I used to make those reports to the council when I was on those various committees. You know, because he said, well, you're gonna do something, Mr. Toney. I feel like you up and coming. He would say that. So he must have saw a little something too. But anyway, he supported me in the other thing, particularly in that park. He was instrumental in supporting me in getting that park in place. But that's another story. But anyway, once I got there, I started looking around. And I had the authority to bring people to the committees, to present to my colleagues some committee names. So I started tapping people. So would you like to be on people? A lot of them said no, some of them said yeah, and some of them came around. But for the most part, I was recruiting people that looked like me.
Yeah.
And I was, got to be kind of successful at that. But people who I thought had a voice, who didn't mind speaking, who were intelligent, who presented themselves well, and I thought would be an asset, and definitely had leadership qualities. So, I mean, you know the folks, I don't need to name them. So they stepped up, they got on there, I got them on the planning commission, I got them on the board of zoning appeals, and then I encouraged them to learn how that operates. Use that as your training ground. So that when you move forward, you understand the dynamics of working with other people, how to go about being persuasive, how to compromise, but the main thing is to be effective. At the table, you got to speak up, you have to have a voice. Just sitting there, having a seat at the table, and you watching things go around you, that's not beneficial to anybody. So I needed people who didn't mind speaking up. For the most part, we got that. We got that. So eventually, I ran into Al, but that's another part. My concentration was Dumfries as a town.
Yeah.
I knew I made a mark there.
Yeah.
And I looked around and I saw who was in place and what they were doing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know you've been very strategic with the politics down in Dumfries. You were vice mayor of Dumfries for, can you share with us, for how long were you vice mayor?
4 years.
So 4 years, and you made changes leading up to that position, you made changes in that position, and you've made changes thereafter that position. You have not stopped.
No.
What are you most proud of during your tenure as the vice mayor of Dumfries?
Well, that's several things that I'm pleased with. The fact that we were able to change the makeup of that council. The fact that we were able to make some changes in the communities that are permanent, that are far-reaching, particularly when you talk about that park. That park, not only did it increase the value of the homes in that area, but it also became an outlet, and is an outlet for people. It's what we call a leisure time park, sitting with a group of people that we had, and to see that coming from the paper, off the planning board, the fruition, that was, to me, that was one of my greatest, I think, achievements in the sense that I led that charge. I was the one who convinced the council that we needed that. And so they, as I told you earlier, I told someone, we charged the town manager with finding a place we could put a park for the townhouse communities. Because of the kids that were out there, I've seen kids, man, there was no basketball courts. The only one that we had was right in front of the town, right in front of the town hall. Police park was right next door, so it was the safest basketball court in the whole region. Never happened over there.
Right.
But a developer needed that spot or wanted that area to provide parking space for that building to treat this town center now. I was livid when he sold it to him. So, but he pledged that once they found another place that he would finance the basketball court, and he did. He did. But and I was with him every step of the way with that.
Yeah.
And I was out there when they was laying it, and they was watching it when they was striping it.
Sure.
You know, and made sure that they put 3-point. I wanted it to be AAU compatible.
Okay.
So that over the years we can get some, like a lot of communities have, you know, during the summer they have the rec leagues come out and the whole community come out to watch it. So eventually it may come to that. So I'm hoping that it will, particularly with the acquisition of that firehouse down there now, that can hopefully become a community center. And I'm gonna advocate for that. I'm gonna push those folks so that they hopefully go in and get that in place. But that would have tremendous impact on that community.
You seem to be very, very big on community and creating spaces where families can thrive.
Right.
Why is that so important to you?
Because that's, you go back to what, it is important because exposure, allowing people the opportunity to kind of spread their wings, particularly you look at today's day when everyone is, they're contracting, they going in the house. Yeah. Kids are just, you know, they're not, and their social skills need a whole lot of help. So when you start stepping out and you're getting on teams, you learn how to communicate with your peers, learn how to compromise and deal with other folks, I think that is part of growth. And families are supporting you if you're on a particular team or something. That helps families grow and bond, you know. But you have to have space for that. You know, you just can't assume. And I saw Prince William County doing that too. They have a very wide recreation, and they started putting those trails up. Yeah. While I was on the council, I paid attention to that. So someone understood the need for recreation and for people to be able to just get out and walk and just breathe some fresh air. That is paramount.
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of Prince William County as a whole, what do you want to see happen with our community here? I know this is a loaded question, but I know you're passionate about a lot of things, and it's really the movement and forward progression of our people. So what is it that you want to see happen here in Prince William County as a whole?
Well, I would venture to say that we're in the midst of it. That it is perpetual, it is moving as we speak. 2008, when I was elected, and I've spoken on this before, Prince William County probably had, I would estimate, maybe 5 African American on all of the boards. I'm not going to say a boards commission, that's a boards subcommittees, but in terms of elected officials. You got 5 towns: Occoquan, Quantico, Dumfries, Haymarket, Manassas, and that's why all these have elected bodies. I think there was one other, I think at that time, Manassas had 1 person. Dumfries had 1. We had Mr. Tanglebu on the board that we had before as the delegate, Mr. Tory. Everything else is white. Wow. The goal was to change that. That's when I got to your mentor and my friend, Mr. Brooks. I'd already done some things in Dumfries. Sure. So now it's time to spread out. Al was the catalyst for that. Yeah. I was at the Democratic Party dinner. And we sat there for 2 hours. And not one black person went across that stage for anything. Wow. Not one black person went across that stage. I mean, I got so disgusted. I got it by and said, man, this is a travesty. And Al was sitting beside me. So he said, Tony, you see it too? I said, yeah, man, I see it. And I walked out. So Al called me. He said, man, we need to do something about this. Couldn't find out. Al had been shaped by A. Philip Randolph.
Yeah.
He was very militant. And, but he also had a passion for that. So we got together, started identifying people in the county who wanted to run for office, wanted to do things. But I had the logistics. Al would do it, but I could sit him down and tell him the different parts of the campaign, or the purpose of each one of those parts, how you get your outcomes, how you look at the whole scope of things. So we sat down with several people, you know, and I could call names, but I don't want to do that because they know who they are.
Sure.
You know, because they all come, and we sat down with them and showed them how to do it, and they did it. Al would do a lot of the hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
At the time also, believe it or not, that first year, I was working directing the campaign for a gentleman, I'm going to call his name, Mr. Trayvon White, who's the current Ward 8. He's a Marion Barry's successor. But that was his first time running. So a friend asked me to come up and help him. So I went up and sat down with his campaign and helped him shape his campaign, and he was successful too. But I was also working down here with Al, doing things. And as a result, things started changing. People started getting elected. People that look like you and I, you know, and start stepping up. And I'm also, I have to say this, I was a little disappointed that some people wanted to move too fast. They got elected, and instead of continuing in that seat, they want to try another bigger seat, end up losing. So to me, I mean, if you're serious, you know, once you get in an elected position or someplace where you can make a difference, then you do that. You know, I mean, all of us got egos, I understand. But if a Senate seat come available, well, I'm gonna throw away, I'm on the delegate, I'm a freshman. Yeah. This is my first year. Let me learn the lay of the land here, learn and get some support, and you know, just kind of establish yourself here. Yeah. I always felt that way. Move slow. Maybe that's just me. If you say the Generation X, you're doing it all now. So I kind of understand that. As a result, some of those folks that are lost, they're no longer relevant. Right. They're trying to stay relevant, you know, based on what I'm seeing on the social media. And I guess they know who they are too. But the bottom line is, we got them elected. We were able to change some things. I think I like the permanency that's what I'm seeing in Dumfries, the town itself. Out here in the county, people are very conscious. People are very socially conscious. I think the gentleman who heads up our NAACP, I mean, is very, very astute and on top of things. You know, and you see, back then too, there were no people on the, no people of color on the county supervisors. And as I told him yesterday, I told him that was the last white bastion that we was going to change up. We were able to do that too. But I think a lot of those folks, they just knew what they were doing and were successful in running the race and winning. But things have changed. And I think it's a continuing thing. Now we have to get some priority in terms of these budgets. Do some things for the people. That's where I keep coming back to. You know, you sitting on these boards and you got 4 or 5 members, but you bickering with each other so you ain't getting nothing done. To me, that's a waste. That's a waste. You haven't learned how to compromise. So now I say, well, look, if you support me on this matter, I'll support you on this matter. That'll help my area, you know. But maybe they are, but I don't think to the extent that it's necessary that they're doing it. You know, and I would admonish them all. Y'all got to learn to work together. You got to learn to work together.